begin this meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education special call study session for November 30th? No, 29. And I'm going to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Anyone who'd like to join me, please feel free to do so. Well, we have one item on the agenda tonight, and it's our friend Tammy Grissom from TSBA. She's not only a friend to all the other school boards in the state, she's been a great friend to this one. And we appreciate you being here. So Tammy, take it away.
Thank you, Chairman Brewer and members of the board. At your seats, you will find a white folder. If you can please open that. On the right side of the folder, I'm just going to quickly, Chairman Brewer, have they seen the search packet before or no? Okay. All right. Just going to start. Our association is part of a national group of other state associations. So our search process, once we send a vacancy announcement out, it pretty much goes out nationwide. So the first thing that I want to go over, and I'm going to skip to it because most people want to go straight to what does it cost, and that'll lead us into the different types of plans that we have. If you will turn to page 6, we have 3 plans. The first one is $3,000, and this is where the board tells me what the criteria for the new superintendent or director of schools is. We will develop a brochure for you that talks about, and if you'll look, speak of brochure, I brought 2 examples. On the left side of your folder, there's one we just recently did Knox County, and we just recently did Clarksville Montgomery superintendent searches. Those are 2 examples of the types of brochures that we do. So once we get that information from you all, we will announce and post the vacancy. It will go to all of the superintendents in the state, including the superintendent's organization. If you'll look on page 3, where it lists the vacancy notifications, those are the various places that we send the vacancy announcement. We also, a lot of boards here in the last few years, we have also paid to post it in AASA and their brochures and on their website and through their network of different venues that we can post our vacancy through those as well. So those are on page 3 are the places that we send the vacancy announcement. So back to plan 1 on page 6. Once we receive the criteria from the board, we'll develop a brochure. You will approve it. We'll send it out. We will have in the brochure the items that we like for each candidate to submit to us. That would be a resume, a cover letter, references, and their transcripts, and any professional educator's license. As you all know, by law, superintendents are only required to have a bachelor's degree in any subject. However, I'm sure you have a board policy that states more than that. Most boards do. So I'm assuming that you do. Correct, Chairman Brewer? Do you? Yeah. I think yours is master's degree, I believe. So we will ask each candidate to submit their credentials to our office through an online portal. We collect all of those for you, and then we will screen those applicants for you. We bring in a screening committee that reviews all the applications, and we'll select the candidates that best meet your criteria to present to the board to interview. TSBA does not participate in the interviews. We are simply doing the legwork for the board. There's a lot of correspondence that goes on when candidates apply, a lot of questions. You don't have to use a search firm. The board could do it on their own, but that usually falls to the board chairman to handle that correspondence and handle that search process. So TSBA basically just does the legwork for the board. So once we present finalists to you all, it can be up to 5. We just finished 2 searches recently, and they just wanted 3. 3 finalists have been more the norm lately. As you have a teacher shortage, there is not a lot of folks out there wanting to be superintendent either. So our candidate pool, we also recruit as your search firm. The last few searches, we just finished Haywood County. I think we had 11 applicants. Knox County was under 20. All of our searches are under 20 applicants. Used to, several years ago, we could get 30, 40. Not the case anymore. It's making our job a lot tougher because there's so many folks that just do not want to be in that position of superintendent. So that's plan 1. Plan 2, and I'll say this, once we present finalists, the board interviews those, and then you decide, who you want to select as your superintendent. We will also hand you over all applications. Just because candidates apply to us, those applications are the board, so we will turn them all over to you. We will, if you choose us as your search firm, we will weekly send an email to the board and say the following people have applied. So that keeps you in the loop of who's applied, because by law, once a candidate submits their credentials to us, their information is public information. So if the press calls or anyone calls for information of who's applied, we are required by law to give it to them. So we just make it a practice once a week to send the board to keep you up to date on here's who's applied. At the end of the search, some boards want us to email them a file that has all the applications in it. We will do that as well, but we'll also provide you a hard copy at the end of the process. Okay, moving on to plan 2, which is 6,500. This is basically all the items in plan 1, but we'll also provide an online survey if you choose to use that. The survey you can distribute to as many people as you choose. It can be faculty, staff, it can be parents, it can be community leaders, it can be everyone in Sumner County if you choose to. What is the survey? The survey has 3 questions. What are the good things going on in Sumner County that you'd like to see continued? Number 2, what problems or challenges would a new director of schools face coming into the system? Number 3, what are the personal characteristics you'd like to see? We also have a question there if someone has a candidate that they would like to recommend, if they will put their name down and their title, we will send them an invitation to apply. We will also in that survey ask them to rank certain characteristics of a superintendent. There's about 21 items, I think, just to rank those items. So that's what the survey is. It's really to get feedback from the community, your faculty, staff, whomever you choose, on the next superintendent of schools. And then we would just provide those results to you at the end. Plan 3 is obviously all the services in 1 and 2, but this is where we would conduct employee and community meetings. You're going to ask me how many boards do this. I will say Knox County did ask us to do in-person meetings, and the types of people that we would meet with would be teachers as a group, central office staff, principals, assistant principals, business leader luncheon and community leader luncheon, and then a forum at the end of the day. A question that's frequently asked, are those well attended? Not usually. I will say in some of our most recent searches, I've had 0 to attend some of the meetings. I've had in teachers group 1 to show up. I've had the most has been 20 to 30. I think there's maybe several factors with that. People are busy. Number 2, typically the press I'll show up at those meetings, and people are hesitant to say anything. We don't care your name and where you're from at the meetings, but if the press is there, they like to report, you know, Tammy Grissom said such and such. So I think that hinders sometimes people coming to speak. So the community meetings are good in that the board has given people an opportunity to provide their input into the process. However, because of our attendance has been low over the years, we have provided that online survey. And I know, for example, with Knox County, we had over 800 complete the online survey. So more people did the online than they did in person. Clarksville did in person. Haywood County, we just finished their search. They chose not to do in person. So it is truly up to this board what you would like to do, but we've tried to provide a variety of plans that will fit your needs. So that is basically our 3 different plans. On page 10, if you choose to have community meetings, there's a sample, a schedule on page 10.
How do you get the word out about a community gathering? If it's the teachers,
We will draft invitations and ask the central office staff to get that out for us. You know, if it's, we'll ask to be placed in the newspaper. If you've got a radio spot, put the schedule on your website. But we'll have to work with your central office staff. Since they've got those emails of everyone, we'd have to have them assist us. But we draft the invitations and all that. We don't need any staff to work the meetings. Myself or someone on my staff would facilitate all those meetings. They're all conducted the same. They are all 1 hour or less. The timeline, page 8, it's really up to the board of when you want someone to begin as your superintendent of schools. I don't believe Dr. Phillips is retiring until June 30th. That's correct. So you'd have someone starting July 1. So you've got plenty of time to do a thorough search. Nowadays, it just doesn't take as long to do a search because we don't have to mail vacancies announcements. With a click of a button, they go across the country. Most candidates know to come to our website for superintendent vacancies, just like they do in other states. So the timeline, definitely up to the board. You tell me when you want someone to begin, which I'm assuming July 1. That doesn't mean you have to wait to name someone July 1. It just means they won't start work until July 1. But you could name someone any time between now and July 1st. Starting on page 11, those, if you want to find out about our search process and if we're any good, I've provided some systems that we have conducted searches for along with the board chairman. I encourage you to give them a call and ask them how we did and how they liked their search. So with that, I'll entertain any questions, Chairman Brewer.
Thank you, Ms. Grissom. Did I say a red light? Mr. Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to have you, Dr. Grissom.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. I know I had to endure the last search when we filled the director the last time. There are some questions that we legally cannot ask. And I think one of them, if I remember correctly, is religious affiliation, for example. Will you all, I didn't just skimming over these items that are included in Plan 1, Plan 2, Plan 3, I didn't see anything about, so my question
Yeah.
is, will you advise us on
We'll
the
provide
question?
you a list of things you cannot ask. When
Excellent.
we present you the finalists, we'll have a list of things that you cannot ask.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that will be provided to you along with, we will also produce a sample interview guide that will have questions that are directly related to the criteria that you all have adopted. So we'll provide that to you as well.
Okay, thank you. My other question, of these placements over the last few years that TSBA has been involved in, how many of those directors wound up being from out of state?
I'd have to go back and calculate that. I can tell you right now, Knox County was inside. That's one of our most recent ones.
Okay,
But it really is all over the board. We don't care if you're local, non-local, everyone that applies is gonna be screened against the criteria that this board adopts. So our job is to find the candidates that best meet the criteria that this board adopts. So we don't care if you're inside the system or outside.
and my last question, I promise, is, your search reaches nationwide.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Ms. Brown?
Ms. Brown?
I have a question. I don't mean it. I don't know how else to find out. How did we get Dr. Phillips?
Ms. Brown, we hired a firm, they were called Ray and Associates.
Oh,
We hired a firm that did exactly what Dr. Grissom is,
so it
proposing.
was a search like yours.
yeah.
Not as good as ours, but yes. I'm just kidding. Dr. Phillips is great.
Yeah.
I wanted to know and I wasn't near then.
Yeah. There are other search firms out there that do this, probably just a handful, 3 or 4. They're a little bit more expensive than we are, but they are out there. So, you've got lots of options. You've got us, you've got other firms, or you can do it yourself. And I say this to boards, if you have a candidate that you want to interview, and I'm not sure if your policy states you have to do a search or not. Does it, Jeremy? It has to be a process, so, yeah.
Yes, this is my first director search, so definitely wet behind the ears on this one. But talking about like the requirements and so forth that we will be looking for, how do you go about with the board setting those?
Well, the minimum requirements should be stated in your policy, but anything,
Like we want to, if we want to say, hey,
you want somebody with a strong financial background, that's the criteria that
Right.
I'm talking about. So you'll have to give that to me.
is that something that as individual board members we would do that, or is that something like as a board together will you meet with us as a board to
depending on which plan you use.
Right. Okay.
But if you choose, then you want me to help you with that, and I would have to just get either at a board meeting, or you could submit to me individually what you'd like to see, and I would gather the data and come up with some proposed criteria. So I would say, based on what I heard from the individual board members, here's the list of criteria that I think, and then you all could add to, revise, but eventually you're going to have to adopt it as a board.
Okay. And as you said, would be looking at a July 1 start date. So what would be your recommendation as far as when the process should start, and then ideally when we would kind of name, or, obviously we don't want to wait until June 30th to name one, just because that's not fair necessarily to the candidate nor to the district as a whole. But ideally, what would What
I
would you
would start
recommend that
now.
time? Okay.
Yeah, I think now's a good time. Number one, we know they're not going to start till July 1, but you need to go on with the process so the staff and the community know this board has a plan, they have a process, and we've started it. And go on and get someone named fairly, quickly. That way people know who it is. It's a lot of unrest for your staff when they don't know who their boss is going to be. And so there is no reason, your current superintendent gave you plenty of notice. So you've got ample time to do a good search. And so I just got off the phone I'm doing a search now for Franklin County. They're in the same situation. Theirs is retiring and they need it July 1. They're going to post this week. Okay. So they're moving on and hoping to have someone named. You can name someone at any time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 more questions. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Knox County, what was the timeline process for them when they did their search?
I'd have to go back and look. I'm telling you, I've done so many. I just finished 2 today. So I'd have to go back. I can share their timelines, but most of them have only posted for about a month or a month and a half. I think with Franklin County, they've not voted on this yet, but maybe a couple of months. You just don't need as long to advertise as you used to, because you can get the word out very quickly. Yeah.
And then my last question is, have you seen an increase over the last several years of applicants coming from out of state? I feel like
About the same.
Okay.
I've
And
been
the influx of people coming into Tennessee from various areas, if that has affected any of that.
We've always gotten them from out of state, and I've been doing this for 33 years, and we get some of the same candidates over and over and over. So there's some that I've seen quite frequently, but
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Wise?
She started when she was 10 years old.
that's right. Thank you.
You're welcome. I will remind the board that not only do we need to establish the search, complete the search, and then when we select our person, there's contract negotiations. You have to work out the contract as well. And that can, depending on a lot of different things, locations for one thing, that can take some time. So we're not in a heated rush, but then we don't need to drag our feet either. And we've got, a month of holidays coming up now, and who's thinking about it, So I just wanted to remind you of that as well. Thank you.
And we also, as part of our search service, we have a legal team on staff that will help you with contract negotiations as part of our service.
Which plan is that?
Any of them.
All cool.
Yeah.
Dr. Grissom, when we did the search for this director, the search firm helped us with questions, and they basically assigned questions to each board member, and each board member asked the same question to the candidate.
They actually stole that from us. Yes, we do sample interview questions.
So they stole that from you.
Yeah. We do sample interview questions, and we do ask you whatever question this board decides, because I think you'll like our questions. They're not yes or no questions. They're things that the candidate is going to have to say, in my experience, I did such and such. But we do, when you start the interview process, whatever set of questions that this board adopts, you stick with those questions, and you use the same questions with every candidate. And then you do assign them, like you would be question 1, Sarah would be question 2. You ask the same questions to every candidate. It makes it easier. You think, whether you have 3 candidates, 4, whatever, you forget what the first one said, so you've got to make good notes and make sure that it just brings about a consistency and a better way when you come back after all the interviews are over. You'll have good notes. We'll provide you a guide where you can rate how they did each question. So it's a nice little guide that helps you, that'll be completed once you complete all the interviews.
Just one more.
Let me,
Oh, I'm sorry.
will someone come over here and get our two lights on?
The buttons aren't working.
Hey, let's leave it.
Well, yeah, we did that on purpose, Glenn. I set that up.
While they're
he's
doing that, we'll let Ms. Wise
I
speak.
don't know, mine was working.
Go ahead, Mr. Wise, while they're working on the lights.
Okay. On the last one, on the night of voting, the search team was in here, they had a team in here. Individually, we went to the conference room and voted. Do you all have that same?
We will not participate in the interview process. Once we present finalists to you, you will conduct your interviews on your own. We do provide you a process that once all the interviews are completed, give board members a time to think about it, then schedule a meeting to come back as a board to discuss the candidates. And then we say that, we suggest that you fill out a written ballot, not secret. You have to sign your name. You cannot do secret ballots. That you write down your top two candidates, sign your name, turn it in, and then the board secretary will read those aloud. Andy voted for Tammy Grissom and John Doe. Glenn Gregory voted, and that's how you get your top candidate to focus your attention on.
And you walk us through that whole process.
Yes, before, you'll decide on and vote on that process prior to the evaluation. So there's no, once the interviews are over, you're not going back, oh, let's change our process. No, let's vote on the procedures and process we're going to use up front, conduct the interviews, and if you choose that process, which it's worked well in other districts, and I think that'll be a good process for this board.
Okay. Mr. Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I personally would not be in favor of Plan 3. I think that becomes more of I can't think of a better term than dog and pony show. Now, I know the state law, what some of the criteria are for becoming the director of schools. Personally, I'd like to have the very best we can get. But I'll throw this out early. I think they need to have a PhD like you have. By the way, where'd you go to college?
Belmont.
Belmont. Well, that's a pretty good school.
Thank you.
I'd like to have somebody that's kind of a progressive conservative, and you can be both. I'd like to have somebody that's very visionary and innovative and on the cutting edge of what the school system needs. And somebody that's pro-athletics. I believe that. Athletics is a big part of our country. And if you don't think it brings in a lot of money, sales tax, people eating out, I mean, I would bet Beach High School has brought in more money for Sumner County this year than just about any business really in the county. We have several extra parts of education, you might say. And I am very proud of every one of them. Like the TCAT in Portland, the middle college at Fall State, R.T. Fisher, Magnet School, E.B. Wilson, and every one of them have a place. They have a place. And they just didn't accidentally get here. And I think that's very important that we have people who can maintain, as I said earlier, be progressive, but conservative at the same time. Because I've always believed if you're a conservative, you get more. You know, at our last board meeting, we had, what was it, 220 AP scholars? That's phenomenal. 220. And I made the statement then, we have students in Sumner, from Sumner County, as of right now, have been in college a year and a half and are classified as juniors because of their AP, dual enrollment, all those type of things. So, there's one other thing too, very important, probably the most important qualification for a director, that they know how to hire great people. Great people. And if there comes a need, not do it politically, but if there comes a need to make a change, make a change. And that's the director's job, it's not our job. The only two votes we have, two, is the director of schools and the school board attorney, is that correct? Now, I just threw that out. Maybe some of you agree, maybe some of you don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Turn your light off.
Hey, I'm afraid it won't come back on.
Maybe it won't.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Lacy?
How does the online, thank you, Mr. Chairman, how does the online survey work? How do you find people to do the survey?
How to do it?
Well, how do you find people to do the survey online about the director's job?
It's up to this board, who you want to send it to. A lot of boards, will provide we'll provide a link that you can put on your website. We can email the link to whomever you want it to go to. You can provide the link in the newspaper, wherever you want to send it.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Brewer. Dr. Grissom, what district employees are involved in the process? I'm assuming Jeremy, Mr. Johnson, the Community and Board Relation, he'll be needed, but what district employees? Will Human Resource?
No,
Mr. Ott?
just usually the board secretary, just helping me. I don't know what plan you're going to use, but if you're wanting to get something out to your employees or to the newspaper, I'd work with your board secretary or your communications person to help us with that. Yeah, but other than that, that's it.
Mr. Ott wouldn't look over their credentials or
Look over whose credentials?
our Human Resource.
Look over whose credentials?
Right, the ones that are narrowed down, would they be looking through the applicant's information?
If you want them to, that's what our office does. We make sure that they have what the board's requiring. And I think at the point that you're starting to negotiate with someone, you might want to involve your HR, but there's no point of spending your staff time on all applicants when you may not even be interviewing the
Because
applicants.
we're paying for that service.
Yes,
in a
so
package.
we'll screen them for you and make sure that they have what you all are requiring. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, quick question about, following up on survey. The link for survey, is that, done in such a way so that it cannot be skewed? Like you have to log in with an email address or?
Just click it and fill it out. We don't ask your name. We don't need to know the name. Just complete it, and it's done through SurveyMonkey. And so we'll just provide you the results, and there's no names are asked on the survey.
Thanks, Ms. Andrews. A question I had, do y'all kind of advise on salary packages that you think we might should offer?
We can provide you with salary information through AASA does a salary survey. We can provide you with the results of that. We can provide you the list of the current salaries of current superintendents in the state of Tennessee. And then if you want to see other contracts of other districts and what they have in their contracts with their superintendents, we can provide you with that as well.
Do we publicize any salary range?
You can.
Do you advise it?
That's usually the first question that a candidate asks. I mean, if I were applying for a job, and that's what happens a lot with these some superintendent positions, some of the candidates are in districts in the central office that are making more than some of our superintendents in the state of Tennessee. So people are not going to take a decrease in pay to become superintendent. So I always ask a board to give me, you don't necessarily need to put it in the brochure. You can if you choose, but at least tell me, because that's a question they're going to ask. The first question, usually, if not the second or third question, is what's the salary range? Because there's no need to apply if it's, 40, 50,000 less than what they're making.
Any other questions for Dr. Grissom? If there's no other questions, well, I'm going to adjourn. Oh, he threw his hand up then.
I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
This being a special call study session, I'm assuming that this item will be on our next voting session. Okay. And I'm assuming that we will discuss the salary range and all that. That'll be part of what we vote on next month.
I wouldn't think so. I would think, we're just discussing tonight, do we want to hire TSBA to be our search firm?
Okay.
And I think that's all we're going to vote on.
Okay.
And then once we hire her, then we start working together and we start putting all the pieces together. So that's the way we did last time. And it worked out real well. So. You got a red light on down there for someone?
I think they're good. We're just checking, make sure we do last call before we get out.
Okay, all right, last call. All right. Mr. King.
Yeah, just so we're voting next meeting on whether to use them. Will we be voting on which plan as well?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so someone would, theoretically make a motion, I'd make a motion to hire TSBA and use Plan 3. Or
Gotcha.
Plan 2, Plan 1, whatever. I'll tell you now, I'll have to talk to Mr. Gregory. He don't like Plan 3, I do. I'll just say that right off the bat, because once you've been through this before, and Mr. Gregory, you've been through it, we need all the help we can get. All of us have jobs, or other lives. This is not what we do every day. And that's what they do every day, and they can help greatly with us. So I was surprised at how low the price was, because we paid much more than that before. So that's my 2 cents worth for whatever it's worth. Miss Hawkins?
Yes, I was surprised at the reasonable price. Also, just researching headhunters, and usually they're 30 to 40% of that salary. So,
Well, it's a member benefit. You all pay dues to us, and so we only provide these services to our members. And however, if you'd like to pay more, we'll take it.
Well, my other question was, are we required to get a certain number of bids before we decide, or how does that work?
I'll just throw that in there. I don't know how we can do that because we have no way of knowing who's going to apply for the job.
No, I mean other search
oh,
firms. Are we required to have
I don't think so, are we?
option?
Yeah, we are, yeah.
Okay.
We've already got a contract with them, so it's just considered a professional service if we use
Got
them.
it.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about how many candidates, you know.
No, I just, before we hire someone, I just wanted to make sure we weren't required to interview other candidates for the searching.
Right.
Not the candidates for the position, but for the search.
Thank you. Mr. Gregory?
What, this has been covered in some of the sessions, you know, we've had with TSBA. For the amount of students we have, which is 30+ thousand, what would be the salary that's recommended? I don't think we pay that now, what it is, but.
I don't have it here in front of me, but I can provide you salaries of similar sized districts. I can provide you all the salaries of every district in the state. I can email that to all the board. I can email you the AASA results. They'll tell you across the country the low, median, and high based on student enrollment. I can provide you that as well.
And there is a big difference in being a director of schools. We have, what, 51 now, 52 when school starts back next fall. And then a county that has 4 or 5 schools.
Absolutely.
There's a big difference. Thank you.
No, my light's not working. Not seeing any other lights on, so 3, 2, 1. We're adjourned. Thank